You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. Be a part of the show by calling 915-544-KTSM, 915-544-5876, or comment online on our stream at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. It's 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means it's time to talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter @Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv. Andrew J. Polk, comments coming in there already. Ida Beza Gardner, hello to you as well on this beautiful Thursday afternoon. Actually, pretty nice day. I've spent most of the day outside today, which is not the plan as it was. Supposed to having some work done at the house we're trying to move into, but personal gripes aside, spent a lot of time beautiful outside, and we got a lot to get into here today. So I hope you're locked in for the show here today, because yes, it's been an ever so slightly busy news day so far. Yes, there's definitely that elephant in the room we will be talking about across the pond anyway, but otherwise dropping those likes and reacts already over on the Facebook page. Robbie Flores, Flaca Jimenez, Ida Beza Gardner, and Monica Cervantes. We do appreciate that and your appreciation, and we won't go through that circular logic again here, but beyond what's going on with the Queen, or now the King of England, and well, it hasn't happened in not just a generation, but several generations, so there's probably a lot of response that's going to be happening there. But way more locally, we've got a lot going on here as well, including some more, back from the district attorney's office, but also some back and forth, more criticism going on of what's happening, even as there is more coming out about refilings going on for those cases. Question having come out about what is planning to be done about the hundreds, if not thousands. The exact number is a little bit hard to pin down at this exact point in time, but an assistant district attorney saying that there have now been cases being refiled, and that some of the other cases are going to be refiled. So an update on that as well. And of course, more updates coming on those. But really the cusp and the big thing we're going to be getting into today, we had a chance to sit down with Deputy City Manager for the City of El Paso, Mario D'Agostino, about what is going on with the city's immigration response, what is happening right now, and what the, at least foreseeable future, looks like when it comes to, again, specifically the local government involvement. We also, of course, touch on what has been going on previously, how kind of this handshake system of immigration and border security and all the agencies involved in it has worked previously in town, and what some of the differences are now, and what the, again, expectations are. So a lot, and I do mean a lot, we'll be delving into there here. But a new out today, we mentioned that there have been some interesting statements and even court filings coming out from, again, El Paso's District Attorney Yvonne Rosales in reference to and responding to some of the essentially accusations and grumblings that have been coming out of people, essentially related to, furthermore, the case dismissals that have been being sought and being granted to the public defender's office. And so El Paso Matters with a story out today saying, just read the title here, DA's conspiracy accusations could have chilling effect on journalism, experts say, authored by Cindy Ramirez, and quoting Bob Moore, or Robert Moore, the CEO of El Paso Matters. I know some of you all asked about him before, and just the first paragraph here referencing that, again, some of those statements and filings coming out of the district attorney's office. El Paso's district attorney alleges in a recent court filing that the county attorney's office and members of its staff, the El Paso Matters news organization, and 2 local attorneys are conspiring to politically attack and remove her from office. That is a little bit what we got at to there. And so that situation continues let's just say that it continues to evolve. And again, to this, at least in part, response to previous guests we have had on the show here, local defense attorney Omar Carmona, who did file that court petition for removal of the district attorney due to failures in office so far, that maybe moving forward here. And again, we have reached out to the district attorney's office to ask for their response and they invited them on the show here. Have yet to hear back affirmatively or either way, honestly, on that point here, but it is an open invitation. We will make it available because we definitely want to speak and have more in the community on this here. And again, statements that have come out to other members, including our news partners such as KFOX 14 and others, quoting specifically here from El Paso's Matters reporting here that in a statement last month, the DA call and the office called the removal petition a political tactic and an assault on the electoral process that put her in office. And John Browson, referring to the county attorney, so again, to clarify here, the district attorney is the one that covers the judicial district that we are in. So essentially, El Paso and a couple counties, give or take, to the east of us here, including good chunks, if not all, of Hudspeth and Culberson. It's not necessarily totally bound by just county lines here. The county attorney is just for the county of El Paso. So I know that this gets really in the weeds, but I think there's a lot of concern when it comes to it, particularly when it comes to the cases that have been getting dismissed here. Again, specifically, that now 80 of them have been filed after hundreds were dismissed. Our news partners over there at KFOX 14 speaking specifically with Assistant District Attorney Douglas Tiemann, Tiemann. Never heard the gentleman's name spoken out loud before. So that they are unable to provide the exact number of cases that are backlogged at this point, but have said that they have begun the process of refiling some of the dismissed cases, saying that, quote, currently there's a little bit in the low 80s of the cases that are either refiled or pending. We've got in the lower 420s as cases identified that we will be refiling. So that's just kind of one of the latest incidents here. The full petition that it was again filed by that local defense attorney Carmona cited numerous things, including a dismissed murder charge coming up recently-ish that his office was involved in against the district attorneys. And so this, even if these are going to be refiled, I think a lot of questions do still remain that we would again love to have answered by, among other things, the district attorney or someone from her office there. We're going to go ahead and take that break a little bit early here because, again, we really get into it in our interview today. Again, speaking with not district attorney, but rather deputy city manager, again, Mario D'Agostino, head of the Office of Emergency Management for the city and county of El Paso. It's a joint office there. And what is going on? Some of those questions coming out. And we do have that clip, one of the clips that kind of led to this interview, just say. So this is what came out of August 30th, that news conference that we had a listener call in and identify themselves as the one asking the question here during that news conference of what exactly the city's involvement is after there was, as most notably came out, busing coming from our local area, specifically to New York City. Here is that question again.
Yes, thank you. No, I'm not with the press. I'm a citizen.
Ma'am.
I just wanted to ask a question. You indicated that there were some illegal immigrants that came in without sponsors. When you release them, where do you send them to? How do you verify where they're going to? And are they safe? And are we safe? Is everybody safe? Because you stated they don't have sponsors. They don't know where they're going. So that was my question.
What I stated was they're legally here. They've already been processed through CBC. That we have no power, authority, or desire to ask anything further than that. If they have their documentation that says they're legally here, we do, as a city, we coordinate it with receiving NGOs. So that's where they're going. We do coordinate that they get there. From then.
Thank you, ma'am. We're gonna leave it to press.
Again, that was one part of the news conference that happened on August 30th of late last month. And a whole lot more that's come out of it. So we're going to get into all of the issues as much as we could cram into the interview we have here. So that coming up after this break. Again, you are tuned into Talk El Paso, airing live here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Comments coming in here, John Browson and Ida Beza-Gardner, and more, as well as we'll take those phone calls on the line a little bit later in the program. Don't worry, we'll announce it. But all of that coming up here after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Heads up for a crash on the I-10 eastbound after McRae, blocking the right lane. There's a backup that starts before Hawkins and growing. On Gateway West at Hawkins, a vehicle is blocking the right turn only lane. An earlier crash Gateway East at Coral near Sumac. Police are clearing a crash there. Minor delays still exist. And an accident McCombs northbound at Sun Valley Drive. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Blindster. Do you need new blinds or shades? Blindster.com offers custom-made blinds, shades, and shutters shipped directly to you at prices less than big box retailers. Visit Blindster now through September 8th to save 50% off any order during their Labor Day sale. Blindster.com.
You wash your hands and brush your teeth, but what about your nose? How do you clean your nose? With Navage. Navage pulls saline in one nostril, around the back of the nose, and out the other nostril, flushing out allergens, mucus, dirt, and germs, and it's why nose cleaning is the next evolution in daily personal hygiene. People try Navage for lots of reasons: sinusitis, allergies, snoring, things that make it hard to breathe through your nose. But over time, they also find that cleaning their nose makes them feel better, a lot better. Nearly 3 million Navage users have written more than 100,000 reviews, averaging 4.7 stars, saying things like, best product I've ever used, and amazing, I love my Navage. That's because Navage helps you breathe better, sleep deeper, and snore less. But the biggest payoff is improved health. Here's the key point. Navage is good personal hygiene, and it's going to help you stay healthier. At Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Bed Bath, Target, and online. Navage, N-A-V-A-G-E. Clean nose, healthy life.
Imagine for a moment that this ad was bought autonomously. Welcome to the new open web, where Viant is combining AI and human insight to create autonomous media buying that accelerates your return on ad spend. And using Viant's DSP Adelphic, you can now measure your media offline and online to see the full impact of your media spend, so you can spend more time on podcasts. Viant, built for the new open web. Built for now. Visit viantnow.com to learn more.
Do you find yourself stuck in a timeshare? Get the real facts about the timeshare industry and your options for cancellation. Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group, beat the largest timeshare company in federal court and has put together a free information guide that reveals the secrets the timeshare industry doesn't want you to know, including the 5 ways to get rid of your timeshare. Call now and get this timeshare cancellation guide absolutely free.
Call 800-738-9900. That's 800-738-9900.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Welcome back here to Talk El Paso, airing on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, more or less the main one, but also, of course, streaming on other Facebook pages, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, all under either Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk on most of those platforms here. Of course, a lot of stuff we'll be addressing here today, but of course, one of the topics that we delve into quite frequently on this program, and you'll have a lot of interest in, is border security, immigration, and all of the subjects in between and around them, and of course, the local response. And what has been going on with local, both nonprofits and government entities, has been very much a focus both for y'all and us lately. So here to talk a little bit more about that, we are joined by El Paso, City of El Paso Deputy City Manager Mario D'Agostino. Thank you very much for joining us here today.
Thank you, sir.
So, of course, we had the news conference last week detailing some of the initial parts of the response here. We have played some clips from that previously on this program. So, in general, what is going on right now, particularly with the City of El Paso's involvement in this response of both managing and sometimes even dealing with the transportation of those crossing the border here at this point in time that have the legal issues, of course, attached with them?
Right. And so, as you know, we've been dealing with migrants passing through our community for years. And the City of El Paso has assisted mainly through the Office of Emergency Management, but we assisted with our NGOs, assisting them in any needs they might need, whether it be from COTS or some organizational transportation through local buses to and from the NGOs themselves to the airports. So we've been doing that for years. You know, it's based off of as people arrive and they're released by the federal agency, whether it's Customs or CBP or who it might be, as they're released to the NGOs, or like we've seen recently to the streets, they're welcomed. At that point, they're welcomed by those NGOs. They're welcomed by us at times when we have to stand up facilities as well. And what I mean by welcome is, okay, you're here now. We understand you have other things to do in your process, but you're free to go to where you're going to go and await these court hearings. And so with that, we welcome them in. Where are you going? Do you have sponsorship? And I got to tell you, 99.99% of the time, they all have sponsors. They have family members. They have somebody or they have their own cash to pay their ticket to their final destination. I've been told by NGOs, we don't see all the data set, as the city, we don't see it all as it comes through, but there's very little of this population who's staying here locally or in our region. Extremely little. And so with that, they're made those connections. They get taken to the airport, the bus depot, and they go on their way and they await their court hearings from wherever they're at.
And that, of course, has been as among the many different changes that have been happening in the way immigration, border security has been handled both across administrations and across different kind of subsets of how the immigration has been happening, whether it be, say, back in 2014, the unaccompanied minor crisis, or, 2016, 2018. I mean, I feel like every couple of years we talk about it shifting in some defined way. And even now here in 2022 seems to be shifting in another way we talk about it. But that's been one of the kind of consistent things is through our area anyway, the kind of transient nature of it, that it is we are become focuses in different ways here. Sometimes it's been that we are getting the offshoots, such as 2014, it was largely the processing that was overwhelmed in other parts of the border sectors were then being brought here to finish processing and then moving out of town, or now that they're showing up right on our doorstep across in Ciudad Juarez, it's still that transient nature of it. Then moving out of town has been primarily the focus kind of throughout.
That's exactly it. And so in normal times, normal situation, they're actually here from 24 to 72 hours. So our local NGOs, our churches, our different facilities within the community, they're welcoming these people. They're taking them in, they're providing them food, shelter, and they're helping them with those transportation. And so they're here for those 24 to 72 hours.
So just to make sure we're clear about the process here, when we talk about how they've shown up here again, there's already been some interaction with federal authorities at this point because they are then being essentially dropped off by federal authorities at some level here. And if there was not kind of this response happening, then there would be a people wandering the streets kind of situation. It would be, therefore, there would be no solutions being offered, and we would see then increasing numbers. I mean, that's essentially the upshot that you all are trying to prevent, right?
That is exactly it. And so when I talk about that welcoming, the feeding, the housing, and then moving on, what we saw different here in the past few weeks is we had a lot of people from Venezuela. And what we're finding that those from Venezuela, they don't have the sponsorship as I talked about, where they're here for 24 to 72 hours. These people have no other connections in the country. They know where they want to go. And the vast majority was to New York City. That's why we set up those charters for them. But they had no sponsor to pay for that transportation.
So on that change then, I mean, there's been well-documented many different nationalities approaching the border, but particularly in our sector. But this one, again, talking specifically that what we've seen in the last couple of weeks, specifically origin points from Venezuela, and therefore, again, lacking the connections like you just said there. What are some of the things and factors that you all are looking at here? Is there anything identifiable about what has changed at this point in time leading to this, or is this one of these kind of flukes or accidents of how kind of unregulated migration can happen before it reaches our border?
These are true asylum seekers, so there is no, from what I understand, there's no agreements at the federal level, so they're not sending them back at all this time. They're coming here and they're seeking asylum, and so with the way the laws are set up and under the current administration, they are allowed to come in here and wait for their hearings, and so they're first generation migration, so they don't have that family network like a lot of the others have, where they're moving on in 24 to 72 hours. That's where the city had to step in, because we got notified from a lot of the NGOs, including the Opportunity Center and Mr. John Martin, who was at that press conference with us. And so what they were seeing is large populations within their shelters that had no outcome. They had nowhere to go. They were going to go beyond that 24 to 72 hours, or even in the Opportunity Center, where they get people moved on within 2 weeks. There was no end to that as well. You couple that with the federal government, CBP reaches out to us and say, we are over capacity. We're approaching 3,000 in custody, and we're going to have to do large releases in the next few days, and the NGOs can't keep up. So we'll be releasing over 500 people in family units to the streets. So you tie that together, we said, okay, we need to get back to our transportation and looking at those aspects. And so we took those, we pulled those that were in the Opportunity Center, we had them pull them. And they're the vast majority, I mean, out of I believe it was 45 people. 43 asked to go to New York City. One asked to go to Virginia, and a couple were to Florida. So we took those that wanted to go to New York City, said, okay, let's charter a bus. So we went ahead and chartered that bus. Why? To alleviate the burden that they were seeing at the Opportunity Center and other shelters around town. And that allows, as the federal government's releasing, they're not releasing to the streets, because we don't want people wandering the streets. For their safety, for the community, to keep everything afloat, we want to make sure that they're welcomed, and then they're able to connect and move on to their final destinations.
Again, if you're just joining us, guest right now is Mario D'Agostino, El Paso Deputy City Manager. You want to find out any more information about some of the subjects we're talking about, the information that the city is putting out here, of course, elpasotexas.gov, but then also elpasoready.org, the official site for the El Paso City County Office of Emergency Management, as well as their social media presences, both over on Facebook and Twitter. Look for them under very similar names, such as at El Paso OEM on pretty much both of those there. So when we're talking about that busing, that's been one of the, I think, most, besides the factor of the origin of the migration we're seeing right now, that has been one of the most, I guess, stark changes we have seen, particularly what we talked about, the way it has worked previously, the city chartering these buses. So you talked a little bit about some of the reasoning, why it's being done there. And of course, one of the points that came up, and we've had discussion even on this program, is about, why that has been being done. Obviously, again, the alleviation, but why this decision now in this circumstance when it has been that, we've heard at various points, and just to clarify, when we're referring there to the 3,000, we're talking about 3,000 being housed in essentially local centers, local facilities that CBP and Department of Homeland Security in general have set up, right? So why this now? What has led to this not being necessary like immediately before this? We've had a lot of different issues coming into our area. So why this decision to do these buses and essentially to use more of the, if not exactly Operation Lone Star resources, very similar to them, because with the use of like the, state guard troops and those kind of things, why this decision now?
So it's nothing new. We've been chartering buses, and we've been moving people to their destinations for a couple of years now. Usually it's from NGO to NGO. So when we'd see these large releases by Customs and Border Patrol, the NGOs would reach out to us and say, we really need assistance to move them on so that they can make their connections and then travel. Back in 2018, 2019, we saw where our local buses, that was their primary transportation to their final destinations, was through the bus. We didn't have enough bus capacity to keep up with the flow of migration that was passing through our community. And so what we were doing is we were setting up transportation from, say, the Annunciation House or one of the local NGOs to an NGO in whether it was Albuquerque or Dallas or Denver. So it's nothing new. What is new is that we chartered these buses to New York for those that had no connection. So it wasn't just chartering them to another NGO and they would arrange their transportation there. They were going to another NGO in New York, and it was Granny's Responders who we were in communications with. So they're going to go there, get received, get processed, but New York is their final destination. That's where they want to be. So they're going through the process over there so they can find jobs and await their court hearings from that point. And that's the difference. We've done transportation. This is the first time we saw large, and I talked about 99.99% of those people having sponsors. There's one or two all the time who don't have it. Sure. It's usually the local NGOs and the churches and that network that's providing their transport. We don't even hear about it. This was the first time we heard about it because they were putting that burden on the local shelters. And so they were the ones reaching out to us, those shelters, those shelter networks, reaching out to us saying, we need some help because we're not going to be able to receive the next group tomorrow.
So is this, from the city's consideration, a part of or asking for resources from Operation Lone Star? I know you talked about some during the news conference about there being, certain federal funds that we'll be seeing as reimbursements for this. So is Operation Lone Star a part of this consideration or part of this effort, again, from the city's perspective?
So it is reimbursable, these transportation. It really is through FEMA Emergency Food and Shelter Grant. Sure. So that, and it's not just that, it's the staffing. We have over 50 people we brought on board, and 50 in climbing, and they work directly with assisting with this migration issue that we have at point. And why? It's to keep that community safety, to keep those from being released to the street, to increasing our homelessness and having people here who aren't accustomed to being here, just left to their own. So that's why we're doing that. But that is, we do seek reimbursement. We have received reimbursement for several things. It's just one of those things. You spend it, you ask for reimbursement at the end of the quarter, and then they provide you funding. So it's just an ongoing process with that. As far as you mentioned the
Operation Lone Star. So you're referring to there to some of the federal efforts, the state level efforts that, say, Governor Greg Abbott has been a part of. There's a lot of talk about these seeming very similar because, of course, Governor Greg Abbott has been making certain points about busing to other places. And so to clarify that, has what the city been doing been considered a part of these larger statewide efforts?
So it is completely separate. And so when we talk about that connection with the state, so whenever you're in emergency management, been in emergency management for a little over a dozen years now, the process is you utilize all your local resources. Once you finish your local and regional resources, you ask the state for assistance. When we set up that first charter, it was specifically just for those Venezuelans because they had no place to go. We were connecting them with the destination that they chose. That was the whole reason why New York was set up. When we asked the Opportunity Center to poll them, we had no idea what they were going to come back with. In fact, when they came back with New York City, we had to add it to our contract because our charter contract didn't even cover New York City. So we had to add it there to meet their needs and what they were wanting. So that's how we approached that. The reach out to the state, that's the normal process of emergency management. So as you need more resources, you call in the state to see what they can provide. And so we had those initial group of Venezuelans that we had to charter out. And then we also had that call saying we're going to be releasing over 500 family units to the streets. You couple with that with CBP saying we're holding at about 1,000 apprehensions a day. That's going to continue to push these releases. It's not ending anytime soon. That's where we stepped in. We contacted the state. They sent down those resources. Those resources, the way they provide charters, the way they're organized is through the Texas military.
Right.
So they came down. They actually went to the Opportunity Center. They saw the process. They sat in on some of the processing that the Opportunity Center and that the NGOs do. And that was is anticipation, or if it did escalate where our charters couldn't keep up with the pace, and we'd have to ask for state resources. As I said, we first have to rely on all of our local resources. Once we utilize those up, that's where we're concerned. So our charters, yes, they have multiple charters. They have availability, but can we sustain 2, 3, 4 charters a day? We don't know what it's going to end up with. So we're looking long-term. If it keeps coming, if the numbers keep increasing, then we have to have our resources in place if we had to call for more assistance. Because if not, what we're going to have is we're going to have a lot of them here in El Paso. As we saw in 2018, 2019, there just wasn't enough seats on buses and planes for everyone to move on out. So what's normally here from 24 to 72 hours started creeping up to 4 or 5 days long. That puts a burden on the limited number of beds we have in our local shelters.
Again, that's Mario D'Agostino, El Paso Deputy City Manager. Again, the information about these things and the responses going on here, elpasotexas.gov, as well as elpasoready.org for the El Paso City County Office of Emergency Management, as well as similar pages over on Facebook and Twitter. El Paso OEM for Office of Emergency Management. We've got to take that next break right now. Coming back, talk a little bit further again with Deputy City Manager here about what is going on and what is being anticipated towards the future. So more about those uses of resources. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
I'm Selena Madrid with your CBS 4 News Update. Today, Governor Greg Abbott will be in El Paso to highlight the state of the Sun City's economy. He plans to hold a roundtable at the West Star Bank in downtown. The discussion will focus on El Paso's business development and job growth. The governor will be joined by the Borderplex Alliance and several local business leaders. We will bring you coverage of the event in our later newscasts and online at cbs4local.com. Meanwhile, the chief of the U.S. Border Patrol's El Paso sector will be leaving the Sun City behind. Gloria Chavez has been tapped to take over as chief of the Rio Grande Valley sector in South Texas. Chavez became El Paso's Border Patrol chief back in 2019 during the height of a migrant surge. She first served as interim chief before being promoted to permanent in March of 2020. There is no word just yet on who plans to replace her. Of course, always remember to stay up to date with what's happening in our area by signing up for our CBS4 newsletter. Just go to cbs4local.com, enter your email address, and you'll start receiving our daily news updates.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
Biggest delays on your El Paso freeways right now, definitely east of the Patriot on the I-10 eastbound between Geronimo and McRae. It's 15-minute delay. Stop and go traffic because of a crash I-10 eastbound after McRae Boulevard. Police are working an injury accident Dyer Street northbound at Rushing and an accident McCombs northbound at Sun Valley Drive. Take Fairbanks or Dyer instead. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
High pressure continues to bring warm and dry weather to the area with little to no rain through Friday. Expect another mostly cloudy night with a hazy sky, and temperatures will settle into the middle to upper 60s by early Friday morning. Coming up tonight, we'll talk about the weekend forecast and the changes we'll see as a cold front moves in. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Kira Miner.
This report is sponsored by Wendy's $5 Biggie Bag. Wendy's Biggie Bag is still just $5. Get a double stack junior bacon cheeseburger or crispy chicken BLT plus 4-piece nugs, small fries, and a small drink. Grab your bag at Wendy's today. Includes choice of double stack JBC or crispy chicken BLT with 4-piece nugs, small drink, and fries. U.S. price and participation may vary. Prices may be higher in Alaska and Hawaii.
Hey, Sean Hannity here from my dear friends at Lone Star Transfer. I love these folks. You know, with all of us traveling so differently these days, timeshares, they're kind of becoming a thing of the past. Now, if you're stuck in one, you don't have to be. Our friends at Lone Star Transfer, they can help you. Now, with skyrocketing assessments and maintenance fees, still owning a timeshare is very risky. And for over a decade, Lone Star Transfer, they have successfully helped thousands and thousands of owners legally, permanently get out of their burdensome timeshare. They have an A-plus rating from the Better Business Bureau. Now, Lone Star Transfer is a family-owned company. They have earned their reputation for delivering first-class customer service. They're going to guarantee the release of all liability to your timeshare in writing and in a specific time frame. Call today for a free, no-obligation consultation, 833-594-0075. That's 833-594-0075 or online at lonestartransfer.com.
For the local issues and discussion you won't get anywhere else, turn to Talk El Paso, weekdays at 4 right here on News Radio 690 KTSM, brought to you in part by the El Paso Community Foundation. Sound off on what matters to you, Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m., and let's talk El Paso.
Do you need new blinds or shades? Blindster.com offers custom-made blinds, shades, and shutters shipped directly to you at prices less than big box retailers. Visit Blindster now through September 8th to save 50% off any order during their Labor Day sale. Blindster.com. This report is sponsored by Blindster.
There won't be much substance on your news feed until you add us. Just like us or click on the link at ktsmradio.com. News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Welcome back here to Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thanks for tuning in however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on our various social media pages, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. Of course, we have a lot of subjects we're delving into here today, but again, joining us here in studio, we do have Mario D'Agostino, El Paso Deputy City Manager, and again, with some of the Offices of Emergency Management, Health and Public Safety focuses here. So thanks for sticking around with us. Talk a little bit further about these important issues, because we are talking about a lot of the specifics. Again, the news conference from last week was a very important point that came up about a lot of what has been going on from particularly local government involvement here. Like you said, always kind of in the background, but this active role may be the new part for a lot of people understanding, again, the chartering of buses, and the number have gone on at that point. It was 4, but we'll get that exact number of where it stands at this point here shortly. But so in some of these questions about how this is going to be maintained, you were talking about in the previous segment, the use of local resources, what needs to be done there. So given that this situation seems to be continuing, at least for the moment here, I mean, well, I guess that is a question on its own. Is this situation of having particularly the non-connected individuals that have been released from federal custody pending their future court cases and immigration hearings, is that still continuing? Is there more expectation, again, from the city's perspective, that we will have to continue dealing with this situation anywhere into the near future?
So we are still seeing that, and a lot of people from Venezuela are making their way through El Paso. We've asked our federal partners if they had an idea of how many are coming up, how many they have in the system. They haven't got back with that information. They said it's really fluid. They're not knowing until they get deeper into the processing where exactly they're from. And so that takes some on that part. But we are still seeing it. As you talked about the 4 charters last week, we're up to 8 at this point. So we are still seeing it. It is a concern.
So that continuing on here, then just with that, an indeterminate endpoint, if there is to be one with this, what are some of the considerations, again, from the City of El Paso and the Office of Emergency Management about continuing to manage this to make sure that we don't have some of those, avoidable situations about people being left on the street or kind of essentially unaccounted for in this situation? What are some of the ongoing concerns and steps being taken at this point?
So it goes back to what we've been doing for years. And 9 times out of 10, no one knows what we're doing just because of that. It's such a minor factor. It's just slight assistance here and there. What we're seeing right now is large numbers. So it's going to be more out there, but it's the same process. It's about having them welcomed into the community just so they can identify where they want to go. From that point, we connect them with whatever they need to get there. 9 times out of 10, it's with family members or sponsors just to make that connection to get their air ticket or their bus ticket so they can transport on to their final destination. Those that some do take a couple of days to arrange. So from there, they go into sheltering. And here locally, it's provided by the NGOs. The Opportunity Center is another one, our homeless shelter. And when it really hits that point where they don't have any more capacity and it's going to be releases on the street, what the City of El Paso has been doing and still maintains is they stand up contracts we have with local hotels. And so that puts these family units into hotels. So they're off the street while they await their transportation, whether it's the next day or maybe 2 days down the road. But that's how we're handling that aspect. With that, we provide them what they need while they're here. We provide them with basic food and shelter, and we make sure they get that final destination. What's different in this time is those chartered buses for those that have no sponsor. We'll continue to do that. We'll continue to seek our reimbursement from the federal government, but that's where we're at right now.
So particularly on then that relationship with the local nonprofit community, particularly as you mentioned there, the Opportunity Center for the Homeless there, that had not kind of historically been part of this issue, but were being used as part of the housing essentially here. They have a large facility, and therefore that was essentially the need at this point here. There were some questions brought up both from our news partners and from some points being made by some of the administration there at the Opportunity Center for the Homeless about their viability to continue this. And of course, Ruben Garcia with the Annunciation House held his own separate news conference on that same day there. Not asking you to comment on what they said, but when it comes to the City of El Paso's relationship with these organizations, how would you characterize that? Is it still working, or are there having to be more movement done to continue to alleviate or maybe work even separately from them?
No, we maintain that communication because the vast majority of this lift is performed by those NGOs. They're the ones housing thousands on a weekly basis. We've had over 50,000 people released into our community in the past 6 months. That's 50,000 individuals that passed through. They might have been here for 24 to 72 hours, as we discussed, but they moved on. The vast majority of them were handled by these NGOs that you talk about in these shelters. What got the Opportunity Center this time was the fact that a lot of these NGOs couldn't take in these people who had no means to move on. They had no sponsorship, as you would call it. And so that's how they made their way over to the Opportunity Center. So it was that burden they put on the Opportunity Center, and they're constantly monitoring their environment because we have our own our local homeless community that they're there to house and to assist and to make sure that our streets are safe for both the homeless and for the residents here. And so when it was putting a burden on them, that's when they reached out to us. That's why we stood up for this. But as far as communications goes, it's a regular basis with the Office of Emergency Management. They all keep in touch. They're all on the same group messaging as far as releases and who's getting who. And so that's coordinated very, very tightly amongst all the NGOs to make sure that we're accounting for what Customs and Border Patrol, ICE, whatever the federal agency that's releasing, what they're projecting they're going to release for that day. We're making sure there's enough beds, enough seats on buses or planes so that they can move on to their destination.
Again, if you're just joining us, guest right now, Mario D'Agostino, El Paso Deputy City Manager. Again, any information about the responses on, again, the local government involvement we're talking about here, elpasotexas.gov, of course, for the city, elpasoready.org for the El Paso City County Office of Emergency Management specifically. And then you can also find El Paso OEM over on Facebook and Twitter there for more information and more of their direct communications and their updates there. So specifically on the, increased use of facilities, you mentioned there that using of some hotel space as well, is the city considering or actually starting to use any other city facilities in terms of being temporary housing locations here? Become aware that at least some may be starting to get set up in order to do kind of more of this temporary housing of migrants.
So no, that's incorrect. And so we are at this, we do set up emergency shelters for emergencies. And so we use that shelter basis where we set up the convention center or one of our local parks and recs facilities, we do set that up for emergency sheltering. And so that is a normal process in emergency response. It really is. For this operation, we have been utilizing hotels. It's people passing through our community. It's very short term. And so hotels, it keeps it easier. A lot of them are family units. We want to make sure they have that separation, that privacy. They're moving on in the next 24 to 48 hours, as I said. So it's keeping it through there. We're not looking to open up a shelter facility. We are doing intake, welcoming centers. And so what I mean by that is if we're setting up charters, we have our federal officials drop off the migrants with us. We're processing them as far as where do you want to go? Do you have the sponsorship? We're helping them make those travel arrangements. We're getting them transportation if they don't have it to the airport or at the bus station. And then those that are unsponsored, we continue to set up these charters so that they can move on to their final destination. But that's a welcoming center. Those are not sheltering operations.
So the welcoming center, as opposed to not being something, say, overnight, essentially?
That is correct. So we're operating these 8 to 5. We've only had to do it a few days, so we stand it up as needed. You know, if we get communications tonight that there's going to be a large release tomorrow, we'll stand it back up tomorrow. But that's how we've been operating as far as that.
Okay, so our other city facilities, such as a convention center or other city offices or buildings.
Yeah, and I was using that as far as part of our long-term sheltering plans.
Right.
We've done that before. You've seen this in hurricanes.
Of course,
we've had evacuees come here. We went ahead and set that up. That's what I was referring to there. Right now, we used a senior facility that was closed for the weekend, so we did that on Sunday, and we were able to open up one of those. Today, we use one of public health buildings that wasn't being utilized, so we could do that processing as well, so we could send out those charters and get those others connected. And it's all based on that flow that we're getting from the federal government. So when I talk to the NGO level, that's what I consider in our level when it's
sure,
that's downstream. Everything upstream is when they're in federal custody. So from the time they cross over till they're apprehended, till they go through the processing, till they get their paperwork that says, okay, you have to go to this court date, or this is the next step in your process, until they're released from that point, that's all upstream. And so what we're really concerned about is making sure that downstream operation, that it doesn't put a burden on our community in terms of street releases and having those wandering out, on the streets, overfilling our capacity of our shelters. And so that's what we're here to do. We're here to make those connections so we can speed up that transportation process.
One final point then on that processing you mentioned there. Again, we had the clip that we have played from the news conference last week where a person who called in later then identified themselves as asking that question about that processing and about that essential ability to be in this country here, and the answer that you gave there about that they are here legally. Again, we kind of gave what I was assuming was the answer here, but want to make sure that we're getting it correctly here, that this is because they have been processed through federal officials and essentially they have that temporary authorization. This is not reference when you said legal, not reference to their permanent legal status, but because they have the ability to wait in this country until their case progresses through the immigration courts.
That is correct. So that's handled upstream. They're going through whatever vetting system they're going to. They actually give them some paperwork that says what the next step is for them. Once they're released from that point, they're legally allowed to be here, waiting the next step. And so that's what when I was talking to that's who we've been providing charters to. So they have that documentation that they were processed through the federal officials and they're awaiting that next step. Those are the ones that we're looking to connect and make sure they get to their destination.
So as opposed to other designations of like temporary protective status or things that are separate from this would be essentially temporary legal authorization that is allowing them again until that point. And that's what you're referring to there.
I believe that's the terminology, but yes, they're allowed here at this point in time until the next step in the process.
And then, of course, the other part that was a part of that question here was about who are they going to? Because essentially, it seems like the city of El Paso is not wanting to recreate the situation we saw again, like Christmas 2018, of people just being released on the streets here. In other communities, you are, when you send out the buses, the charters to other communities, coordinating with organizations on that end here. So it's not a bus showing up there, people getting off, good luck kind of thing.
That's exactly it. And since that last press conference we did, we actually had members of the New York City mayor's office come down to El Paso, talk with our mayor, Lisa, city management. They sat down, emergency management, and we had the conversation. And so they work closely with Granny's Respond, as we talked about in New York City. So we now included them in our correspondence as well. So as we're sending another charter, we actually send them who's going, when they should be there, when they should expect them, so that they can coordinate across all officials and not just Granny's Responding. Because we want to make sure that we get them transported, that they're getting received, and that
Absolutely here. So as this situation continues on with, again, some kind of indeterminate questions at this point about duration here, is there anything that you would want the people of El Paso or our listener base to know about how this is being handled and what they can expect?
Well, I don't see it going away anytime soon. I mean, it is what it is there. And so we will continue to do what we do to make sure our community is safe and that those who are passing through our community remain safe as well. And so with that, we'll continue our operations of welcoming them in, finding out, processing, where do you want to be, how are you going to get there, getting them the rides they need to the airports or the bus stations, making sure they have a means to get there so they don't miss their travels. And for those that are unsponsored, we'll go ahead and continue chartering buses. As long as the federal government's reimbursing us as a community, then that's the avenue we're going to take so that we can make sure they get to their final destination.
Again, guest right now has been Mario D'Agostino, El Paso Deputy City Manager. Again, for any of the information about some of the responses and the organizations, of course, involved in it from the local government perspective, elpasotexas.gov for the city website, elpasoready.org for the El Paso City County Office of Emergency Management, and look for El Paso OEM on Facebook and Twitter for, again, El Paso Office of Emergency Management. So, Deputy City Manager, thank you very much for coming here and talking to us about some of these questions, some of these situations, and what people can at least partially expect here today.
Thank you.
All right, we got to take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we will go ahead and open up those phone lines as we do at this point during the show. So if you want to give a call there along with more of the comments, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
That earlier accident blocking traffic, I-10 eastbound after McRae Boulevard. All lanes back open there. Still a delay, 6-minute delay, stop and go from Airway to McRae. An accident's blocking the right shoulder. Several vehicles over to the right. I-10 eastbound at Copia. And heavy slowing from an injury accident eastbound Pebble Hills at Tim Foster. Take Rich Beam or Charles Foster to get around that. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Kelly Blue Book. Kelly Blue Book Instant Cash Offer is an official offer to buy your car. Enter your vehicle ID info, answer some questions, then get a no obligation offer to sell or trade it. Then choose a dealer to purchase your car. Schedule a time and drive away with confidence. For all of the it's kbb.com it.
This is Cecilia Abbott. Greg Abbott is my husband and our governor. Greg and I met at the University of Texas. We married soon after. I came to know what Greg Abbott was really made of when I saw how he responded to his accident. At just 26, a massive tree fell on him, paralyzing Greg for life. His recovery took months, but Greg never gave up. He often says challenges don't define our lives. Instead, it's how we respond to those challenges that defines us. Greg and I have known triumph as well. The joys of our marriage and adopting our daughter Audrey have shown me the depths of his love and commitment. Greg and Audrey have a great relationship. He's taught her how to deal with the trials of life. Hard work, perseverance, and family. Those values define Greg Abbott, and they guide him every day as governor of Texas.
Political ad paid for by Texans for Greg Abbott.
Hey, Mario Courtney Lopez here. We know how important it is to be confident in all of life's close-up moments.
And bad breath can rob you of your confidence.
Yeah, it can. Whenever I'm rubbing elbows with celebrities or friends or just chilling at home, I got to make sure I have the confidence that comes with Smart Mouth mouthwash.
Smart Mouth is clinically proven to eliminate and prevent bad breath for 24 hours with just 2 rinses a day.
Get to your favorite retailer right now for that kind of better together confidence.
Find Smart Mouth at your favorite retailer or at smartmouth.com/radio.
Talk El Paso, bringing you the biggest stories from the borderland and beyond, 4 to 6 p.m. every weekday, brought to you in part by Sergio Lewis Body Shop. Call the pros at 915-593-0191. That's Talk El Paso, Monday through Friday at 4, right here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
For more than 20 years, the Window Depot has provided the best price and the biggest inventory on in-stock vinyl windows. And now the Window Depot is more than a window store, offering homeowners and contractors a one-stop warehouse full of interior and exterior doors, granite and quartz countertops, in-stock cabinetry, and flooring and tile to finish your project. Their team of professionals will help with everything from pre-kitchen design to custom orders from leading manufacturers like Milgard and Geldwin. Order online or find a location near you at thewindowdepot.com.
Want to save 50% on new blinds? Blindster.com offers custom-made blind shades and shutters shipped directly to you at prices less than big box retailers. Visit Blindster through September 8th to save 50% off any order during their Labor Day sale. Blindster.com.
The La Viña Cosecha Wine Festival is September 24th and 25th. Info at laviñawinery.com.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thanks for tuning in however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Getting a pretty short time here this segment, so if you want to get on the line, still have a little bit of availability. If you want to call in, the number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Otherwise, don't want to short shrift anyone on their opportunity to make a call here. So we'll get back into those here at the top of the hour once we get past that top of the hour news break here. A lot of comments have come in there on as well, at least a couple essentially not buying it. RJ putting it pretty specifically not buying it, saying, I wouldn't buy a gallon of ice water in July in the middle of the Chihuahua Desert from this guy here. So I'm going to take that as a longer and creative more way of putting it, saying you don't buy it, which, I mean, some talking about that as well. Falcon Menace with the finer point, saying he talks as if all federal funds aren't paid for by us. I mean, I guess delineation of local versus federal, but yeah, they still would fall under the blanket of taxpayer funds. I'll agree with you there. John Browston disagreeing on another specific point, saying, wrong. Land ports of entry, international airports, and seaports are the only legal ports of entry into the United States. All other entries are illegal. Don't necessarily was talking about the method of their entry, but rather their current status here. As again, and I try to make the further delineation between such as more overarching programs such as the temporary protective status, which has come up in the news infrequently, not so much affecting this area. So I don't know if we've directly discussed that here on this program, but essentially authorization, temporary authorization is about that there. Kathy Carter referring to fentanyl seized as well, and Ion Grimm with a longer comment that we'll have to get into here at the restart of the hour, just because, well, again, don't want to just really only summarize someone's comments here. So we'll get into that and a whole lot more after this break. And some more interesting comments that we will get into here. Again, if you want to get on the line, that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Oh boy. And the comments, well, all the people tuning in, chiming in, we'll get to those, squeezing what we can coming up on the second hour of the show. So in any case, stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break and the top of the hour news here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
That earlier accident blocking traffic, I-10 eastbound after McRae Boulevard. All lanes back open there. Still a delay, 6-minute delay, stop and go from Airway to McRae. An accident's blocking the right shoulder. Several vehicles over to the right. I-10 eastbound at Copia. And heavy slowing from an injury accident eastbound Pebble Hills at Tim Foster. Take Rich Beam or Charles Foster to get around that. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Beautiful, top quality, long-lasting dental implants as low as $19.95 at 1995implants.com. The El Paso Dental Office, where implants are affordable. Other places charge $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, up to $6,000 per tooth. Please do not pay that much. Please do come to 1995implants.com, where our price is much lower, as low as $1,995 per tooth, including the implant, abutment, and crown, which many other places charge extra for. Plus, at 1995implants.com, we also offer a free consultation, free standard x-rays, and very convenient payment options. Now's the time to get rid of your cracked teeth, missing teeth, or loose, old, wobbly dentures and get the beautiful new smile that you want at a very affordable price. 1995implants.com. For more information, see our website, 1995implants.com. That's 1995implants.com. Se habla español.
I loved playing high school sports. I loved the competition, the camaraderie, the bands, the crowds, all the pageantry, and I wanted to keep playing. But I graduated. No colleges called, and neither did the pros. So, to stay close to the game I loved, I decided to become a high school official. You know, a referee. When I played high school sports, I learned the importance of integrity, good sportsmanship, and respect for the rules. Now, as a high school official, I get to help model these same values to others. Maybe the colleges and the pros didn't call, but the kids in Texas did. And now, I'm enjoying the competition, the camaraderie, the bands, the crowds, and all the pageantry of high school sports all over again.
This message presented by the Texas University Interscholastic League and the Texas High School Athletic Directors Association.
News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. Queen Elizabeth is dead at the age of 96 after ruling for 7 decades. Buckingham Palace made one announcement this morning saying the Queen's doctors are concerned for Her Majesty's health. We then learned her family, including now King Charles, Princes William and Harry and others, rushed to be at her side at her castle in the Scottish Highlands. The Queen was a British icon, especially to these UK expats living in New York City.
Sorry. Sad. She fulfilled all of her duties with this demeanor that, she always wanted the best for her country.
President Biden and the First Lady made an unannounced visit to the British Embassy in Washington, D.C. and signed a condolence book. He said she was a great lady. The Justice Department is appealing a decision to appoint a special master to review documents seized from ex-President Trump's Mar-a-Lago property. That comes following Judge Aileen Cannon approving Trump's request for that third-party watchdog. The DOJ was against that decision and argued it had already finished reviewing the documents. Steve Bannon is pleading not guilty to charges related to an alleged fundraising scheme to build a wall on the Mexican border. Lisa Taylor has more.
New York City District Attorney Alvin Bragg says We Build the Wall raised more than $15 million on the promise that no one would make money from donations. He says the president of the organization made more than $250,000 in a salary funded by donations, with Bannon accused of laundering some $140,000 of the funds. Bannon allegedly used another nonprofit corporation to conceal the transfers. He's charged with money laundering, conspiracy, and fraud. I'm Lisa Taylor.
Investors are ignoring the likelihood that interest rates will be raised this month as stocks close higher. Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell said today the central bank will do everything it can to fight inflation. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. President Biden heads to Ohio tomorrow to promote manufacturing and the recently passed semiconductor bill, the CHIPS Act. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said Biden will talk about the groundbreaking at a new Intel semiconductor manufacturing facility in Licking County near Columbus. The state attorney general is warning Georgia consumers about flood scammers. Liz Kennedy reports.
Chris Carr and Insurance Commissioner John King are urging residents who suffered flood damage to be careful about who they hire, as con artists are known to prey on people during natural disasters. Flood victims who have insurance should make sure to contact their providers and ensure they're only doing business with licensed, reputable contractors. For larger jobs, it's recommended to get all bids in writing and to check out all companies with the Better Business Bureau. I'm Liz Kennedy.
A judge will decide whether a lawsuit against San Diego State University over alleged Title IX violations will move forward.
The class action lawsuit claims female student athletes received about $1.2 million less in athletic financial aid, despite women making up nearly 60% of student athletes at SDSU. One athlete says the women's rowing team was cut one year because the university claimed there was too many female athletes, and her coach even warned against joining the lawsuit. SDSU says its scholarship funding for female athletes is among the highest in the state. A judge is currently considering a motion to dismiss the lawsuit. I'm Eddie McCoven.
Hillary Clinton says she and her husband Bill once left their daughter Chelsea behind at the Kremlin. The former First Lady told Jimmy Fallon on The Tonight Show Tuesday that the family was there during her husband's presidency on a state visit to Moscow. The Clintons apparently left the Kremlin and were ushered into their limo without realizing they'd left their child behind. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
Now your chance at $1,000 and a trip to our 2022 iHeartRadio Music Festival. Text the nationwide keyword music to 200-200. You'll get a confirmation text and info. Standard data and message rates apply in this nationwide contest. That's music to 200-200.
This report is sponsored by Dell Technologies.
Dell Technologies semi-annual sale has arrived, and it's time to save big on PCs with Windows 11 Pro. Plus, get great deals on top accessories, including docks, monitors, and more. Dell Technologies recommends Windows 11 Pro for business. Call a Dell Technologies advisor at 877-ASK-DELL.
Hi, this is U.S. Congressman Tony Gonzalez. Are you paying more for just about everything? I know I am. Inflation is costing Texas families thousands of dollars more for everyday goods like groceries. That's why in Congress, I'm working against reckless government spending to help put a stop to skyrocketing inflation. If you have any questions for me about my work to combat inflation, please do not hesitate to reach out at 210-806-9920 or online at gonzalez.house.gov.
Paid for by official funds authorized by the House of Representatives.
The Stuff They Don't Want You to Know podcast delves into popular culture's most persistent mysteries. Now, there's something else that the guys at Stuff They Don't Want You to Know want you to know. They've got a new book coming out. Packed with illustrations, the Stuff They Don't Want You to Know book is written in the same smart conversational style you love hearing on the podcast. Available October 11th. Pre-order now at stuffyoushouldreadbooks.com or wherever you buy your books.
This message is for all of you sitting in the passenger seat. And apologies if it gets a little uncomfortable, but how does it feel to be at the mercy of someone who thinks a random text is more important than your life? Someone who takes their eyes off the road while speeding along in a 3-ton hunk of steel. Freaky, right? Well, why not just ask them to stop? Or better yet, volunteer to text for them. It might be a little awkward, but believe me, you'll live.
Learn more at stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of comments coming in from pretty much all of those spots right now. But if you also want to get on the phone line, that number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. We get into more of those calls as we can squeeze in for the remainder of the program here. So if you want to get on there, again, 915-544-5876 here. RJ, again, the buying analogy is continuing on here, talking about slime away soap here, and the comment we got up on screen there. But Kathy Coterie over on the YouTube asking a specific question. Get the guest there, I'm assuming referring to, mention anything on stash houses, clarifying with the plural there, or the bailers, of referring to the bailouts there as well. Not as directly. I mentioned them in kind of the course of it here, but primarily with the Office of Emergency Management, which again, our guest from previous hour, Deputy City Manager for the City of El Paso, Mario D'Agostino, is more focused on that part of it. That's why he was in that news conference last week. And so those are the primary questions we were going on with them here. Honestly, that's the kind of question about stash houses or bailers, or the immigration question we're seeing here. I guess the closest thing he got to addressing that. Again, he didn't mention those specifically, nor did I really press him on that point, because not exactly in the wheelhouse. Honestly, with like the bailouts and the stash houses, that's more of a law enforcement question. So the perspective he gave about the current situation that we're in, and what is the city's perspective on, again, the city of El Paso, not necessarily the actual, like, again, any law enforcement agency up to and including the El Paso Police Department, was that it doesn't look like this is going to be ending anytime soon, is the kind of takeaway I put from it. Not trying to quote him directly there, but paraphrasing and my takeaway from it here. So kind of related to that, but not exactly to your specific question there. Ion Graham saying a little bit earlier that they'll make sure to tell these poor illegal immigrants that Republicans/conservatives didn't want to help them, so the government will. It's a shame that we can't educate them about the Constitution, freedoms, being responsible, earning a living, and not being dependent on the government as they enter and settle into our wonderful country. Something needs to change. Just can't keep going on and on and on. One more on there. And interesting comment there, and something that I think has been part of, at the very least, the local Republican Party's kind of new citizenship efforts and going into speaking to people right after those and offering them information, perspective, those kind of things, but kind of extending that as you're talking about there to those actually coming across. But, well, one finer point there to make is not totally related to what you're talking about, but there was that organization that was mentioned by the deputy city manager there about one of the NGOs, nonprofits that they were coordinating directly with, and looked it up here again, Grannies Respond. You can find them at granniesrespond.org, which is the one that they said they were working there in 2018, and is an organization that started in 2018 in response to what was happening at the U.S. border at that point in time during the Trump administration. So I'm not saying it's going anywhere to your idea of education, but of the groups involved and they're being coordinated with, it would maybe be interesting to see if something along the lines of what you're talking about there, if they will be willing to receive and deal with the processing of them. Not the processing, but the aftermath of processing, essentially, like this organization does. That might be the closest you could get to your stated goal there. John Brazelton bringing up that thing that came up during the national news break there involving Steve Bannon and the We Build the Wall folks here, saying the We Build the Wall border wall at the Sunland Park is the best privately built border wall on the border. 20-foot fence, ground sensors, lights, and cameras, plus concrete driveway. No wonder Washington, D.C. and Democrat liberals hate it. I contributed toward its building. I mean, if that was your decision for your use of funds, more power to you here. But you do have to admit that right up until there was that construction happening there, I remember even people that I knew outside of yourself here, I don't think we were exactly talking it this way at that point in time, that there were questions of, okay, this was donated to, what exactly is happening and what's going on with it? And then it began to pop up more or less inside of our station here. If you go sit on like the right part of the property, or if you were to climb up on the roof, you could definitely see it here. So once they did that, I think there were some people that were interested in the process that may have breathed a sigh of relief, so to speak, that something was happening. But given the fact that this was even going on back during the Trump administration itself here. So sure, you could call this as political consequences, but there was also some distancing, shall we say, of even the former president, Frov Bannon, on this. So, I mean, sure, there's probably some that are liking the political consequences, but I'm not going to say that that's totally cover for what the organization may have been doing on its own there. I don't donate to political causes just because it's well outside of my wheelhouse here, but I still have some questions about necessarily how it was organized that would have, had I been in a position or been wanting to donate, would have been wanting to know a little bit more about. That's just some of the comments coming in here as well, including Flaco Jimenez saying, meanwhile, the potholes are getting bigger and the police are understaffed and we can't use our public pools, ... leaving more to the imagination there. And again, though, some of those chiming and commenting as well as dropping those reacts over on the Facebook page. Ion Graham, Tom Wiggins III, Robbie Flores, Flaco Jimenez, Ida Beza Gardner, and Monica Cervantes here. Again, just to maybe reiterate to her a little bit here, the reason we do the interviews the way that we do, I, in general, seek first to understand and then to be understood. I by no means expect you to agree with me on any particular or all points, certainly not. But the idea of having okay, what are they talking about? And then we break it down. Well, that's what we do at this point during the show here. So if you're wanting to call in again, phone line's full up at the moment, but the number is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. But then we also do have those comments here. We'll squeeze in what we can. So let's get to at least one of those calls right now. We'll get to more of them, but one immediately. We do have Frankie and Messia on the line with us here right now. Frankie, thanks for joining us.
Ha! I'll tell you what. Great news today. Lots of news. I mean, on a sad note, but, God bless King Charles III, the Bonnie Prince of Wales, King Charles. They good for him. Now, I just heard today that our great Department of Justice is going to appeal that stupid ruling from that woman down there in Florida. Then, boy, oh boy, that's going to be something different on that key. I just don't believe it. Even though there's like 5 or 6 conservative kook justices on there, I think they're going to be a lot smarter than this moron girl down there who's got no experience whatsoever. That's number one. Number two, now, the poor Queen Elizabeth II, she passed away. Very sad. But what's going to happen, the way it goes in the world, lots and lots of people from all over, the heads of state and stuff are going to show up. I'll tell you this right now. This is breaking news. They're going to invite a lot of people, and the only person they're not going to invite is that persona non grata. By the way, that's French for get the heck out of here. Donnie Dotard. He will not be there for her funeral services. You heard that. This is breaking news. That's all I want to say.
Fair enough here. And of course, yes, the passing of Queen Elizabeth, as much as it's, definable impact on the borderland is dubious, but it is major news because this is not even a once in a generation kind of transition that we're seeing here. One of the ways it was put to me that really puts it in stark example that it was Queen Elizabeth's coronation was the first and only coronation of an English monarch that was televised. That is how long of a reign this is since the beginning of the era of television. So, yes, it is quite multi-generational impact. So I'm sure, Governor Greg Abbott has responded. Many local elected and, statewide and now, of course, national elected officials have responded to it there. So, and everything we're about to see play out in the British Isles over this is going to be very thought out. The whole London Bridge is down. Operation London Bridge will be unfolding over the coming weeks and probably months.
Well, I'll tell you what. As sad as it is, and she was a wonderful, wonderful person, a heck of a reign. But I gotta say, so I don't understand the British. It's going to cost them something equivalent to about £6 billion to shut down the country for her funeral business. Okay, listen, you loved her, give her the right kind of funeral, but shutting the country down and causing all kinds of $6 billion economy shutdown? And wait a minute, whoa. That's all I want to say.
Fair enough here. Well, thanks for the point of the call. Do appreciate it.
All right.
I'll just say that I don't think that there's going to be a question of is it too big, but did we go big enough as part of this here? Because, again, this is beyond generational at this point. You're going to be hard to press to find anyone that's still alive that remembers the previous reign of the Queen there. So, sure, long live the king, but also we're no longer a colony or subject to their rule, and I much prefer it that way. In any case, let's get to another call here on the line. We do have, again, that number to call is 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. And at least one comment coming in here, RJ saying asylum seekers are persecuted by government for political, religious, or other views, not because they live in bad neighborhoods or the south side of Chicago. Would be vacant here. And as a further point on that, actually, there has not been any buses, as according to, again, when we had the interview yesterday, as we conducted it with Deputy City Manager DeAugustino there about that, has not been any buses yet to Chicago because simply they couldn't fill a bus, and they've been focused primarily on the busing to New York City here. But let's go back to those phone lines again. We do have Barbara on the west side here with us right now. Barbara, thanks for joining us.
Hi, Andrew. Thank you for taking my call. Can you hear me correctly today?
Yes, it seems to be coming through well.
Okay. I wanted to talk about open borders today and how what's happening in our borders is humane and welcoming, and which is what Escobar and Samaniego State. There's a United Nations organization that stated that President Joe Biden's border with Mexico, and I'm quoting, is the deadliest land crossing in the world. And then the FBI has labeled the U.S.-Mexican border as a major drug and human smuggling route. And El Paso is a point of entry for drug and smugglers. And then on July the 7th, Mayorkas testifies and he says, I think we're doing a good job. So my question to Biden, Mayorkas, and our Escobar, please explain to us how we are doing well. We have a 4-year-old that was just dropped off at the border with a little toy. Children who were dropped over the fence not too long ago. We have stash houses from one end of El Paso to the other. We have rape trees with women's and children's underwear there. We have men and women and children buried in trenches in the Darien Gap. We have women stating, and these are reports, and she said, you have to pay with your body. Then we had an 11-year-old child at the border at the Rio Grande Valley who arrived screaming and crying because she had been raped so many times before she got to a border. Then we have fentanyl, and the list goes on and on and on. And the DPS in 2019 regarding human trafficking statistics said that 40% of everybody that's human trafficked are blacks. And of those 40% of the blacks are trafficked into sex trafficking. The second largest group that's trafficked are Hispanics. Hispanics, that's our area. 24% of those trafficked are Hispanics. Of those 24%, 56% are victims of labor trafficking. Remember Georgia? Remember Hyundai? Remember the child trafficking investigation? So just how humane and how well are we really doing is my question to our Congresswoman, because she supports the Biden administration. And then recently on TV, Sarah Carter was there, and she's an investigative reporter. And she was in Central America, and she reported that a human smuggler asked if she would interview him, and she did. And he stated to her that the cartels, once they get to the southern border, the Mexican southern border, the cartels have specific characteristics, race, color of children that they will abduct. And he said they will never be free again. What they are doing with him, and Sarah Carter thought she would hear that they were being sex trafficked and drugged and they were victims of forced labor. He said they were actually taking some of these kids to illegal clinics, removing their organs, and selling them to the highest bidder. He said that's a lot of money and rich people will pay for it. So knowing that, how can our Congresswoman, Mayorkas and Biden continue to say that we are doing fine? They know that human trafficking is a global issue and how it affects the world, but they're still in favor of doing that. And then recently, Border Chief Ortiz, and notice his language, he said that the agents had encountered 2,690 illegal immigrants. He didn't say they're legal. Of those illegal immigrants that they encountered in the last 3 days, 10 of them were large groups, he said. They had 10 sex offenders in the group, 4 gang members, and a murderer. Again, how are we doing well? And not only that, El Paso sector is now number 2 as far as border crossings. In August, 30,000 crossed in the border sector, and that moved us up in the line of border crossings. So my statement to El Paso is, if change doesn't come in 2022, El Paso is no more asleep at the wheel. El Paso's in a coma. We need to do our research. We need to get out there and we need to be vocal. We need to be vocal with the county. We need to be vocal with our congresswoman, and we need to be vocal with the city. So this idea that we are doing well is a lie. I hate to say it, but they're lying to us. We don't get the truth. That's why it's so important that we do our own research. And I just gave you stats, and those are from 2019. I'm wondering, and I couldn't find a more recent one. So, you know, we have to wake up. The slumber's over, El Paso. Get out of that coma, somebody. Nudge these people. So,
definitely agree with you on that.
Yeah, Agustina, may I say something quickly?
Sure, real quick.
I'm glad that somebody has finally spoken out, because we go to city council meetings and we go to commissioner's court and we can ask a question and there's no interaction with the council or the councilmen or the commissioners. This is how it should be done. Inform the people. Let us know what's going on. Don't make it a news conference where, you know, maybe I was out of line asking questions, but we need to know. So I'm glad he came in, and I'm glad that you asked him those questions, Andrew, because people are entitled to know what's going on in our community, even if we may not believe everything he said, but at least that's a start. So those are my comments today.
Yeah, thank you for the point in the call there. What I'll say on this is that, yeah, the saying that things are good on the border and that the border security situation is good, I really don't know where that's coming with us. Well, besides being a political line, essentially, I would accept better, like say that we are doing better, because that's a qualitative thing. And given how bad things are in a variety of ways with the overwhelmed both local and regional federal, I mean, not even just talking about the local response, but the regional federal resources that are there, such as, you know, DPS, I mean, what's coming on the Texas side of things, but I mean, when it comes to Border Patrol, CBP, ICE, all of these organizations, these federal law enforcement agencies that are being stretched with this, I would accept better. I would accept to say, if they can prove it, that we are doing better, but I'm also going to need to see that. But I think we are kind of in agreement with you, a long way away from being called good with this, given all of the challenges we are facing.
Because we know they are doing bad. And this is the worst in history that I'm aware of. So they can't even get near the word good, because that's a lie of itself.
Fair enough here. Well, again, thank you for the point of the call. You have a good one there.
Thank you, Andrew.
Absolutely. I mean, we got to continue this discussion here, but we are overdue for that next break right now. So we got more calls coming in. We got more comments going on. Again, if you want to get on the line yourself, the number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
An earlier crash on I-10 eastbound at the Copia Street exit is all off to the right. All multiple vehicles off to the right shoulder. I-10 eastbound after McRae, that accident is cleared. All lanes back open there. 54 Patriot southbound at Sun Valley. A stalled vehicle is blocking the left shoulder. And a serious accident, Pebble Hills eastbound at John Hayes. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Napa Auto Parts. When your ride fires on all cylinders, so do you. That's why Napa is on a mission to keep you in motion. With nearly 6,000 Napa Auto Parts stores and over 17,000 Napa Auto Care centers, the Napa network has everything you need to get up and go.
The El Paso Community Foundation supports the causes you feel passionate about here in the borderland, whether it's education, social services, arts and culture, the environment, health, or economic development. The El Paso Community Foundation has been promoting philanthropy and progress in our hometown region for more than 45 years. Make your mark with us. Start a fund today for good, for El Paso, forever. Learn more at epcf.org. That's epcf.org.
iHeartRadio Earth is here with little tips for a healthier planet. Plastic waste in the environment persists for hundreds to thousands of years and creates serious risks for wildlife, ecosystems, and humans. Help reduce plastic waste by replacing single-use plastic packaging, bottles, and containers with reusable products. Brought to you by iHeartRadio Earth and the National Environmental Education Foundation. To find more tips for smarter, sustainable living or to take action in your own community, go to iHeartRadio.com/earth.
Cashback is not available on gas in New Jersey and Wisconsin. Hey, good morning. You're heading to the airport, right?
Yep, thanks for checking. I like the car. How long have you been a rideshare driver?
About 3 years now, but I really enjoy it.
Isn't it hard to make money these days with the price of gas being so high?
Not for me. I use Upside, the free app that gives you cash back for every gallon of gas you buy.
Wait a minute. Are you saying you actually get real money back when you get gas with the Upside app?
Yep, I get real cash back every time I get gas.
Does that actually add up to anything?
I'll make around $200 to $300.
Wow, that's serious extra cash. I'm downloading the Upside app now.
Download the free Upside app now to earn real cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code RACE for an extra 25 cents a gallon bonus on your first tank. You can cash out anytime right to your bank account, PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code RACE for a 25 cents a gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code RACE.
Next Thursday, you will be caught in an extreme flash flood.
Disasters don't plan ahead, but you can. Talk to your loved ones about making an emergency plan. Get started today at ready.gov/plan. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thanks for tuning in, however you may be doing so. A lot of ways to interact with the show, particularly at this point during the program. Do those phone lines open full up at the moment, but we want to squeeze in before the end of the show. That number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Just as a pro tip, the only thing that really separates those that get on and that don't is tenacity and stick-to-itiveness. Is that a word? I'm going to use it anyway. And a lot more comments on it there. Then more, Barbara Carrasco saying, quoting directly from El Paso Matters, with shelters at capacity, hundreds of migrants are being released in El Paso streets for El Paso Matters just this very minute. How did D'Agostino not know? And more street releases may be necessary. I mean, they said that's what they were intending to avoid here, but again, also not exactly an optimistic overview of the situation and what the near future is. I will say that much here. But some other comments coming in as well about voting on that idea. EFR saying we need to get all of El Paso to wake up and vote. And Kathy Codry saying a lot of El Paso people are disengaged from voting or not legally able to vote. I mean, yes, there is certainly a portion of the population, just given our demographics and what we know exists in town here, that are not eligible to vote, either underage, certainly under 18 cannot vote, or, only legal permanent residents, not citizens. And sure, that is definitely going to preclude some from voting and being able to do it. But we are nowhere near kind of scraping that bottom of the barrel of, these are the only people left not voting. We have so many more people that just aren't voting. So your first part about disengaged, that's the target that needs to be hit, and hit hard by getting the message through to people about voting and the fact that you need to be involved in the process. It's not going to take care of itself. In any case, Stephen Christopher saying, saw a line of people at the Super Lodge on Dyer here. Didn't mention any of the specific hotels are being used, but I guess that does make a level of sense. I believe you when you say that, essentially, there. Let's go back to those phone lines again. The number to call, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. We do have Raul in the Northeast on the line here with us right now. Raul, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew. About immigration and immigration policy, vis-a-vis what president, what parties in control of the White House. In the last year of Obama's presidency in 2019, there were 19,648 Border Patrol agents. In 2020, there were 19,740 Border Patrol agents under Trump. And now under Biden, there's 19,536 Border Patrol agents. So insignificant, statistically insignificant, the number of agents that have gone up and down since Obama to Biden. So, you put your money where your mouth is. If you really think it's a big, big problem, then you would have seen a significant increase in the number of Border Patrol agents, which you didn't under Trump. Nor did you see the wall built, nor did you see Mexico pay for the wall, nor did you see him round up the 11 million illegals working in this country that he said he was going to round up and deport. Never did that. So he was a failure in immigration policy, as he was in just about everything. He is, according to historians, the worst president we've ever seen. And now the only president whose house was searched by the FBI, where they found thousands of classified documents that belonged to the government of the United States, not to Donald Trump. And then, and with empty folders now, found a secret documents, and who knows, he may have sold these off. He's all about money. He's all about himself.
So the idea of the former president's foibles that we've become well acquainted from your perspective on it here, but I got to take an issue with a couple of lines, or particularly the historian's line. As a student of history myself, and very involved and very happy to talk about history, talking about this now, this is historically bad, and this is something that is definitely, unparalleled here. We are barely even out of that presidency, and particularly the impacts that we have seen from it, certainly here. So calling this historians are definitely calling this here. We're getting close to one of those, 9 out of 10 doctors kind of statements here that I also don't totally believe, because to say that, this is definitely the worst ever here. I'm going to need you to look up some guys like, I don't know, McKinley, Millard Fillmore, Garfield. I mean, sure, we maybe have had more inept ones in the past year, but by calling it just definitively like that, I'm not even saying that it couldn't be done that way in the future, but it sounds like I'm trying to get political goals out of this right now here. And it's also interesting the way you refer to there, the only president whose residence has been raided here, because sure, no one is above the law. Rule of law is certainly important here, but also the fact that it was handled this way, you got to admit there's more than a little bit of political influence on that, or very least political goals that seem to have been served by it ever so slightly here. So that's why, again, incredibly interested, because when we start getting particularly the hypotheticals, who knows what it could have done? He could have sold it to the moon men so they could attack the earth here. when we just start doing, baseless conjecture, when we start getting out of the realm of actually talking about the things that affect us here in the borderland, as we like to try to focus on as many days out of the week as we can, and getting more into the, what's the worst thing I can come up with here? And sure, we can go down that route, but I prefer to talk about what's real, what's impactful, and what we actually know here. So on the immigration issue, yes, the staffing levels when it comes to, Border Patrol, CBP, all of those border-focused DHS entities, Department of Homeland Security, that has been quite the sticking point over administrations. I mean, sure, there was some movement that happened in certain ways here, but also it is a long hiring process. I've had my hand in it at certain points in different careers and different jobs I've held in doing some of those investigations on what it takes to get someone on. It is at least a year-long, if not multi-year-long process here. So I'm not going to say that there couldn't have been anything done during the previous administration, but it's more of a trajectory kind of thing. Is it sustained effort? Is something that will continue on here? Because if you're really saying that, within 4 years, nothing happened, really within 2 years, so something have happened here. And also, I mean, you got to admit that, sure, there was not much actual, or at least all of the border wall construction that happened. That was, a major campaign speech and campaign point that happened during the previous presidency. But also, the impact of what happened with the relationship with Mexico was also very different when we're looking at things such as potential anti-migration and stuff like that here. So, again, as much as I love a good otherwise review of the previous president's, foibles and tendencies and your opinions on him, we're going to move on from that here today. So thanks for the point in the call for what it's worth. Have a good one there. We're going to go ahead and take that next break right now here as well. Coming out of this break, we will talk further about the things that do affect us here in the borderland with more of your calls here as well. So if you want to get on the line, that number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
I'm Selena Madrid with your CBS 4 News Update. In the past month, local judges have dismissed hundreds of cases because of a lack of action by El Paso District Attorney Ivan Rosales. Yesterday, we spoke with Assistant DA Douglas Timon about how she's now addressing the backlog of cases. He confirmed prosecutors have started refiling some of those criminal cases that were dismissed. Timon says the DA's office will also benefit from a so-called DIMS agreement with the El Paso Police Department. It's a program that allows prosecutors to screen some cases immediately with help from law enforcement instead of having to wait weeks or longer to go through the standard court process. Meanwhile, the FBI is now offering a reward of $5,000 for information that leads to the arrest of the person who robbed a GECU credit union branch in East El Paso. The suspect was wearing a sombrero, construction vest, knee pads, and a face mask when he robbed the bank. If you have any information about this bank robbery, call the FBI's El Paso office or Crime Stoppers at 566-TIPS.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
If it's a little slow on the I-10 eastbound near the Copia Street exit, it's from an earlier crash. Everything is off to the right. All lanes open there. It's slow on the spur, though. 601 Liberty Expressway. I-10 eastbound in the Low Valley at the Loop, a disabled vehicle blocking the right shoulder, and an injury accident northbound Yarborough before Montana Avenue at Shannon Place. Watch for slowing there. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
High pressure continues to bring warm and dry weather to the area with little to no rain through Friday. Expect another mostly cloudy night with a hazy sky, and temperatures will settle into the middle to upper 60s by early Friday morning. Coming up tonight, we'll talk about the weekend forecast and the changes we'll see as a cold front moves in. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Kira Miner.
This report is sponsored by Staples Stores. Staples has everything you need for school. Crayola 10-count markers and 12-count colored pencils are 99 cents each. Staples one-subject notebooks are 35 cents each. In-store only. Offer ends 9/10. Limit 30 on notebooks. This year, go forward to school with Staples, the working and learning store.
There's only one dental office in El Paso where beautiful, top-quality, long-lasting dental implants are very affordable. 1995implants.com. Other places charge $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, up to $6,000 per tooth. Please don't ever pay that much for dental implants. Instead, come to 1995implants.com. Our price includes the implant, abutment, and crown. plus a free consultation with the dentist, free standard x-rays, and convenient financing plans to fit your budget. With help from 1995implants.com, you'll no longer have cracked or missing teeth, and you'll finally be able to say goodbye to loose, old, wobbly, worn-out, uncomfortable dentures. If you're ready for a brand new smile that family and friends will rave about, then come to 1995implants.com, conveniently located right here in El Paso. For more information, see our website, 1995implants.com. That's 1995implants.com. Se habla español.
Talk El Paso, bringing you the biggest stories from the borderland and beyond, 4 to 6 p.m. every weekday, brought to you in part by Sergio Lewis Body Shop. Call the pros at 915-593-0191. That's Talk El Paso, Monday through Friday at 4, right here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Wendy's new home-style French toast sticks are so good, some are saying they're better than their mom's French toast. Perfectly crispy on the outside, perfectly fluffy on the inside, perfectly perfect in every way. Try Wendy's new home-style French toast sticks today and see if they're better than your mom's. This report is sponsored by Wendy's. Try Wendy's new home-style French toast sticks today.
The most current and comprehensive. Just minutes away at the top and bottom of the hour, and always online at KTSMradio.com. News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. In addition to those sponsor announcements you hear during the breaks here, Talk El Paso also brought to you in part by Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat at 950 Crockett Avenue. A lot easier to get to since some of the construction has gone down there. But of course, you can find them and all that they do over on their website, of course, there. And find out their selection at Sunland Park, Jeep, Chrysler, Dodge, Ram.net. So please check them out for all they do to support us in our continuing mission to continue having live local talk radio here in the borderland. And lot of different comments coming in there. Commentary on commentary, which I don't quite treat as navel-gazing here. But the idea of dealing with other documents taken from the White House here, and then Kathy Coterie, that asked a question earlier, wasn't trying to ignore you here, but I was trying to find if any list from the city about actually deputy city manager salaries. We've certainly had a lot of conversations about the city manager salary, so she finds if I could find anything concrete on that. But Kathy Coterie saying, according to the stats for 2020 open payroll, deputy city manager salary is $206,290 here. So my assumption was 6 figures, and obviously probably going to be under $400,000 because a deputy city manager making more than the city manager would be, well, I have other issues with that. Let's just put it that way here. But I've seen similar kind of numbers there, but hadn't found something specifically from the city yet. So let me see if I can find more on that a little later on here. But a lot more comments coming in. Dropping those likes and reacts, we do appreciate it. Of course, Ion Graham, Tom Wiggins II, Robbie Flores, Flaco Jimenez, Ida Beza Gardner, and Monica Cervantes, among others here. But let's go back to those phone lines now. Again, that number to call is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Andrew on the west side here with us right now. Andrew, thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you, Andrew. Immigration and busing.
Right. A complicated subject, particularly with the way it's been evolving in our area.
Yes, these cities up in the Northeast do not realize the strain on our resources along the border.
I would say that's pretty agreeable here. I mean, as much as, yeah, the idea of using people as political pawns is distasteful, but also the argument being made that this has been voluntary. Further argument to be made whether it's doing this or getting deported immediately. Point is that I have had a level of schadenfreude, I will freely admit to, when it comes to hearing from those cities, those mayors saying, we can't handle this, and just kind of like, what do you think has been going on here? We've been dealing with, is this truly just been an out of sight, out of mind thing for you? Because if you're looking for like sympathy on this, particularly from the local audience here, I don't think you're going to find much.
No, sir. And let me educate. That's pure political rhetoric by these Democrats in these sanctuary cities. They're the ones that declare themselves sanctuary cities. They're the ones that said we welcome all immigrants. Okay, fine, that's good. Don't complain when you start getting buses. And just to educate people even further, the city of New York has a budget, an annual budget. Now, the budget approved for 2022 was $102 billion.
Yep, that sounds about right.
Yes, that's a 102 with what is it? Nine zeros next to it, something like that.
Give or take here. A billion with a B. Bravo. The letter following that as, that very big number. And again, that whole, billion here, billion there. You start talking about real money as the way we've upgraded the million phrase. Yeah.
Yes. The city of El Paso and the county of El Paso, their budget combined barely hits $1 billion. And you guys can look that up. Okay. Like I said, I was just looking at the budget for the county, the proposed budget for the county of El Paso for next year, and it's 273 pages long.
Yeah, they're not simple documents, but I will say here is that there is a slight difference in the budget that you find there. I mean, that is a very good statement and sets priorities, and so it's not an unuseful document to look at, but that doesn't necessarily mean the total amount of money that is coming through that entity, because that doesn't necessarily include the, other parts of monetary policies such as the maintenance and operations budget, in which things like certificates of obligation come out for. So even when you're talking about it there, the true number is usually a bit higher.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And like I said, I'm just touching the tip of the iceberg on that. But anyway, my point is this: to these cities in the Northeast, don't complain. Don't complain about it. You're the ones that created this disaster. You're the ones that opened the spigot. And when people say, "Well, we've had more apprehensions under Joe Biden than any other president," yeah, because hey, you're the one that opened the spigot, and when you open the spigot, you're going to collect a lot of buckets of water. That's for sure.
Yep, sticking with that hose analogy, which as I was definitely thinking about that as I was watering my backyard earlier today, putting down some weed and feed, because the rains we've been having have been causing those issues in its own way. But yeah, the way we actually deal with it, again, the span and the differences between administrations here, this back and forth we've seen from essentially immigration reform to security reform and back and forth we keep seeing here. Again, I would love to see comprehensive solutions, but given the just complete logjam on this subject within the legislature, if I was holding my breath, I'd be blue on the floor, passed out by now.
Yes, sir. Oh, and I must comment on something Comrade Raul said.
Mm-hmm.
The last full year of Obama's administration was 2016. Remember, Trump took over in January of 2017. So just thought I'd need to bring that point up. Anyway, I turn the mic back over to you.
Fair point there. Thank you. Appreciate the point in the call. You have a good one there.
Thank you.
All right, I think we can get another couple here on the line here. Again, the number to call if you want to squeeze in, 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. We do have Ben on the east side here with us right now. Ben, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Andrew. To Raul, I just wanted to talk to him. Trump had our border under control, and didn't need to hire more border patrol officers. That's the reason why we didn't have an increase in number of border patrol officers hired. One other thing, okay, this is my question today. Where in our city charter does it give the right to city officials to use our city resources to be used by the federal government?
Interesting question there. I think the answer, making some assumptions here based on the conversations we've had, I'm going to say that based on emergency needs, probably some justifications there, but the idea that there's going to be reimbursal is probably the longer answer to the question there. But I don't have a subsection I can point to you right now, but we did ask, and they did agree with the city manager and his staff there if there are any follow-up questions. So I'm going to mark that one down as well and see if we can get any further answer on there. So wanting to know where in the city charter your question there is, it allows for the local use for federal purposes of local funds.
Yeah, the citizens need to file a lawsuit. Somebody needs to file a lawsuit against our city for doing this. I don't think there's anything in our city charter gives them the right to do that. All right. Anyway, I gotta go. Let's go, Brandon.
Sure thing. Appreciate the point in the call. You have a good one there.
Bye.
I mean, we do have some interesting questions coming out of this. One of the other ones that I want to say was Kathy Codry said during the interview. Again, our guest previous hour was Deputy City Manager Mario D'Agostino for the City of El Paso here, and didn't have, again, a real on-hand question there or real on-hand answer for it as part of what we said here. So trying to find that question here to make sure that I'm not misrepresenting it. Let's see if I can find it here in a bit, because a question about what happens, particularly with the minors coming through here. Again, what my knee-jerk reaction here that I am not sure is totally accurate is that essentially it's not really held or dealt with by the City of El Paso, but solely the federal authorities there. But it's a decent one to follow up on. So we've got a couple things we will be following up with them on. We have one more call on the line here right now. We'll get to that before the start of the next hour here. We do have a call here right now. We're live with Talk El Paso. Who's this? Hello. All right, we may be having trouble with one of our lines here today. Calls seem to be dropping off of it here. But if you're calling on the line and you're in the middle of a segment, you could get popped up live. So just be Johnny on the spot with it there. So we do have a lot more points that have come in here. And RJ making that point there that South Texas is in overload mode. We're in decent shape by comparison. Not as decent shape as we have been in previous decades or parts of decades anyway, coming up on better part of a decade from some of those like 2014, 2016, 2018. It always seems to be the even years. We see significant swings, shifts, or variations in migration patterns, don't we, here? Whether it was, the 2014/2016 unaccompanied minor crisis, and now to the the asylum crisis, presenting either at or in between ports of entry, all that kind of stuff here. So I think, again, the only constants, I may have spoken about this during the interview, or if not, definitely thought it, that the only constant in all of this has been change, and the change has been constant, which means that both the local and, more importantly, federal response definitely needs to stay nimble as much as possible. And while we'll keep talking about it here, but that's going to take us through that next break of the hour. Coming out of this break, we'll get to at least a couple more of those comments, squeeze in what we can, and tell you what we got coming up for you on the show. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't forget, you can leave us messages after the show for us to get up on the next one, either through the pound 250 system or on the talkback feature on the iHeartRadio app. We'll mention that again coming out of this break. Again, stay tuned. More Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Back in a minute.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
A crash with injuries, I-10 westbound at the Mesa Street exit. That's exit 11. On the spur, it's still slow. Eastbound between the 54 Gateway and the Loop, 8-minute delays. An accident reported Global Reach northbound near the Liberty Expressway. And an injury accident slowing traffic northbound Yarborough before Montana Avenue at Shannon Place. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Dell Technologies.
Dell's semi-annual sale has arrived. Save big on top tech, including XPS and Alienware computers powered by 12th Gen Intel Core processors, plus free shipping on everything. Call 877-ASK-DELL.
You wash your hands and brush your teeth, but what about your nose? How do you clean your nose? With Navage. Navage pulls saline in one nostril, around the back of the nose, and out the other nostril, flushing out allergens, mucus, dirt, and germs, and it's why nose cleaning is the next evolution in daily personal hygiene. People try Navage for lots of reasons: sinusitis, allergies, snoring, things that make it hard to breathe through your nose. But over time, they also find that cleaning their nose makes them feel better, a lot better. Nearly 3 million Navage users have written more than 100,000 reviews, averaging 4.7 stars, saying things like, "Best product I've ever used," and "Amazing, I love my Navage." That's because Navage helps you breathe better, sleep deeper, and snore less. But the biggest payoff is improved health. Here's the key point. Navage is good personal hygiene, and it's going to help you stay healthier. At Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Bed Bath, Target, and online. Navage, Navage. Clean nose, healthy life.
Cashback is not available on gas in New Jersey and Wisconsin. Hey, good morning. You're heading to the airport, right?
Yep, thanks for checking. I like the car. How long have you been a rideshare driver?
About 3 years now. I really enjoy it.
Isn't it hard to make money these days with the price of gas being so high?
Not for me. I use Upside, the free app that gives you cash back for every gallon of gas you buy.
Wait a minute. Are you saying you actually get real money back when you get gas with the Upside app?
Yep, I get real cash back every time I get gas.
Does that actually add up to anything?
I'll make around $200 to $300.
Wow, that's serious extra cash. I'm downloading the Upside app now.
Download the free Upside app now to earn real cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code RACE for an extra 25 cents a gallon bonus on your first tank. You can cash out anytime right to your bank account, PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code RACE for a 25 cents a gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code RACE.
Because everyone deserves excellent medical care, El Paso has its own free community medical clinic. RotoCare is a free walk-in clinic located at 301 South Schutz Drive and is devoted to improving the health of all El Pasoans, including those without insurance or legal documentation. RotoCare is open most Saturdays from 9 a.m. to noon. For more information, call 790-0700. RotoCare, because everyone deserves excellent medical care.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for having joined us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I've been your host, Andrew J. Polk. Even though it's been a short week, we have covered quite a lot of ground here today and in all the other days this week. And what we will continue to do, of course, tomorrow, that ever so special day of the week when we'll get into your comments and calls here. So if you want to get something in ahead of time, kind of not exactly skip the line here, but make sure you get on. We, of course, have the talkback feature over on the iHeartRadio app. So if you're listening to us that way, whenever you're on the 690 page and we're up there, there'll be this, see if I can get it right here on screen. You can see that little red button over there that'll be next to the stop and play button, which means you leave us your comment day or night. Get a 30-second shot there. Or again, if you call into pound 250, the way you do that is you dial pound 250, all four of those symbols, the pound, the 2, the 5, the 0. You call that as a phone number. So you do have to do it from your cell phone smart device. It'll ring. You'll be given a chance, asked to say the keyword. Just say Talk El Paso, and you can leave us a message day or night as others have. So that's another way you can get at us, even if you're not able to get at us during the show here. Do also take some emails, but I mostly take them under advisement unless you're asking for a specific response from me. In any case, at least one more commentary coming in here. RJ, kind of going on that other comment we were talking about sex trafficking. I love those euphemisms, unaccompanied minors. How about the truth? Child sex trafficking victims. I mean, there's a level of response and concern I do have with that and that whole situation, because what it took to get here and what's coming out of it. Because, again, even if it is the reasoning, I think, that came out in 2014 was that there will be more leniency as they are minors or those kind of things at that point in time. But the cartel's not exactly known to be, sweethearts and darlings and charitable organizations. We're going to do whatever they can do to make the most money off of the situation. And there's a lot of money to be made in a lot of very sick, disturbing, and ultimately morally incomprehensible ways in this world here. And if something isn't being done about it to combat it, I mean, there's the whole idle hands and road to hell paved with intentions, those kind of things here. And the money in it. So that's why, I mean, that is an interesting question that I want to get into here. So a couple of follow-ups we'll have for the city here, getting back with those as soon as we can here. But in any case, that's going to about do it for us here today. But we'll, again, be back with you tomorrow. Free for all Friday on deck for y'all, as much as maybe that's been leaking out during the week some of the times. But we try to keep it focused as much as possible on what's affecting us here in the El Paso. But we will be opening up that and the floodgates of comments and on all the subjects that you want to bring up here tomorrow, as we will take on all calls, all subjects, all comments, as much as we can cram into 2 hours. But that's going to do it for us here today. I want to thank everyone who did tune in, call in, comment, participate in the show. Seriously, that is what makes this, I think, worthwhile, and why we'll keep doing it as we do every Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. In the meantime, stay safe out there. Look twice for motorcycles when out on the road. Have a great evening, y'all. We'll see you tomorrow.
Traffic all day.
News Radio 690.
A crash with injuries, I-10 westbound at the Mesa Street exit. That's exit 11. On the spur, it's still slow. Eastbound between the 54 Gateway and the Loop, 8-minute delays. An accident reported Global Reach northbound near the Liberty Expressway. And an injury accident slowing traffic northbound Yarborough before Montana Avenue at Shannon Place. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
During this interruption, let's talk about disruption. Emerging new channels, cookieless media. Marketers, are you missing out on one of the most engaged audiences in today's new open web? With Viant's programmatic software Adelphic, stay in tune with digital audio, stream the future on CTV, and level up with in-game, so you can see an average 3 times return on ad spend, maybe even on this very program next time. Viant, built for the new open web. Built for now. Visit viantnow.com to learn more.
Hey, Mario Courtney Lopez here. We know how important it is to be confident in all of life's close-up moments.
And bad breath can rob you of your confidence.
Yeah, it can. Whenever I'm rubbing elbows with celebrities or friends or just chilling at home, I got to make sure I have the confidence that comes with Smart Mouth mouthwash.
Smart Mouth is clinically proven to eliminate and prevent bad breath for 24 hours with just 2 rinses a day.
Get to your favorite retailer right now for that kind of better together confidence.
Find Smart Mouth at your favorite retailer or at smartmouth.com/radio.
Freedom of speech lives here.
To me, freedom of speech is being able to say anything you want.
El Paso's News Radio, 690 KTSM.
Portions of the following program were pre-recorded.
Always just minutes away from the latest news around town and around the world.
It's important to know what's going on, especially around the world.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
180 over 111, and I had a stroke. I couldn't speak.